I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, Velocities in Music, the best kept secret in music reviews. Tom, I think that there's been a ton of great music released in 2013 so far. We're halfway done with August, and we finally have a lull. And when Tom and I get lulls in music releases, we like to go back, peruse the year, see what albums came out through the year, notable releases we've been watching, kind of maybe have even listened to in the past that just felt that there was other albums at the time that took priority that we chose to review instead. One of those albums, which came out at the beginning of March, so it's been several months now, was Rhye, Woman. Not self-titled, but the first album from this duo, which consists of a Canadian cellist and music producer and also vocalist, Mike Molist, I'm hoping I'm saying that right, and Robin Hannibal, who's of the band Quadrant, who they're an electronic group, which actually we might end up reviewing that album sometime.
We got that one on our backlog, Yep. So Rhye's sound. Rhye has such a unique sound, which is what kind of initially intrigued us into reviewing this album in the first place. Now we didn't get to it until now, but it's a type of sound that is just impressive from the get-go, because there's no, like most pop music that you hear, and this really isn't pop, it's being described as like neo-soul or pop soul. Most of that, you think of like synths and guitars and things like that, setting up simple song structures and things like that. No. Nowhere on this album do you really get a sense that, hey, I'm going to hear this on my local pop radio station. No. Because it's very low-key.
Absolutely.
It's very chill.
You get a lot of instrumentation blends, you know. I hear, obviously you hear a lot of cello, piano. You'll hear some light guitar, light bass. Usually there's a jazz sound to this. There's clarinets. There's saxophones, and there's also, usually at the end of the song, there's trumpet that comes in at some point in time. So a really eclectic blending of instruments. And like I said, there's a lot of jazz and even dance, disco influences, very light. Everything about this album just has this staccatoed light feel.
It's just like every blend of style, every accent is just kind of subtly just presented to you.
Absolutely.
And there is just kind of this sultry swing to the whole thing. And not like it's really swinging like you would think of like upbeat jazz, but just in a way that just kind of makes you want to kind of slowly move to it. And that's the mood that they're really creating through this whole thing. And what really helps with that, you talked about the instrumentals a lot, but the vocals are very, very smooth.
Yes.
And
I just want to come out and say, I originally thought this was a female vocalist.
I totally did too. Apparently it's a guy.
It's a guy.
Came as a big surprise to me. One of the closest vocalists I would say his voice resembles is Sade. And she's a woman, obviously. So
thanks.
Just to clarify the gender difference there, but just like I said, very very sultry and smooth, kind of an R&B type sound. There's a lot of kind of romance to it, you know.
Well, it's called. I mean, the album is titled "Woman." If you look at the album cover, if you're at our website, we have the album cover there. You know, it's a woman naked. You don't see her head, but you can kind of tell she's in the midst of doing it. And if you look at the music video for Open, right? You see that it is all about sex, right? So there's a lot of just romance, intimacy. Those are just common themes on this record. Now, I gotta say, I really got into this sound the more that I listened to it, because I really love when I hear instrumentation blending and songwriting that you just don't hear anywhere else. This is some of the most original music I've heard in a long time, and I was very taken aback by that. Also, I just want to say that I thought the vocals on this album were some of the best vocals I've heard in a long, long time. I felt that the vocalist was very, very good at not only creating melody in a very high quality sort of, like the chord progressions that you hear within the vocal parts. I mean, it's on another level for most artists that you listen to on a regular basis. But then, and then not only that, but you couple that with the style and also just the passion that he puts into it. I mean, I really feel like you can really just feel the emotion dripping off of his vocals throughout the album.
And the sound was the bread and butter of this album to me. I thought that they pulled the sound and the style off very well. From there, I felt like it was a little hit or miss on the songwriting, and I know that you felt it was a lot more consistent from the conversation.
I wouldn't even disagree with you too much. I just think that I preferred it a little bit more.
That's fair. To me though, I enjoyed this. By the end of the album though,
I wasn't completely overwhelmed. I definitely enjoyed it. I didn't think there were any particularly weak tracks. There weren't any that I would want to skip, but there were really only a few that stuck out to me.
Yeah, I mean, I only picked 2 tracks, so I definitely agree with you here. And I would say that I generally favor the front half of this album. I felt like the back half slipped a little bit. Now, I did really like the closing track. I thought that was an excellent closer, too.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool send-off. There are some vocals, but really they're just more nuanced.
Yeah,
there's not really lyrics to it. Yeah.
I mean, it's his vocals are being used as an instrument, and it's a more artistic piece. The reason why I say I think I favor the front half is because that's where the majority of the jazzier songs lie. Kind of in the middle of the album, it starts switching, and you get a bit more of a dance, almost disco vibe to the songs. Like I said, it's all light. It's nothing that's overbearing at all. But it just kind of influenced how I interpreted the songs, and I just generally favored the jazz-influenced songs. I was in jazz band. I like jazz. I love Miles Davis. I mean, these are things that are a part of like what has built my background in listening to music. So I just generally favored that.
That makes sense.
Tom, what are you gonna give this?
I'm gonna go 72.
That's a good score. I'm a little higher than you.
All right.
I think this is worth a 79. So a little bit of a disagreement between us.
Yeah, definitely.
It's always healthy.
We're still in the 70s range, but I consider anything above like a 4-point difference to be a decent disagreement.
Right. And if you look at our best worst page of all time on our website, like the line is at 77. That is where the top of the bell curve is. So I'm above that line. Excuse me. I'm above that line. So I definitely feel like this album was a little bit stronger than you did.
Yeah.
But really, we're interested in what you guys thought of Woman by Rhye. Please leave us a comment discussing your thoughts, and we'd love to get your opinions on what Rhye was and who you side with, Tom or I, at www.velocitiesandmusic.com or youtube.com/velocitiesandmusic. As always, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and throw us a note saying what albums from 2013 you'd love to see us review. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, moving music critique forward.
Stealing kisses in those misses within.